So I was going back through some articles on n64today.com the other day, and I came across Martin's list where he ranked every Mario Kart 64 track. Naturally, this led me to think how I would set up my own list, and I was surprised at just how many tracks we have a difference of opinion on. Perhaps it's because I'm more of a Diddy Kong Racing fan myself, but I still have tons of memories whipping around the courses that I felt enough interest to go back and rank my own list. And so for today's video, we're taking a look at my ranking of every Mario Kart 64 course. As always, I'd love you to share your lists in the comment section down below, so that maybe as a community we can come up with an aggregated rundown. But even if you just comment your top 3 courses for example, it would still be really cool to see what tracks you all enjoyed. And so without further ado, let's begin. Choco Mountain ends up in last place on my list for the simple fact it's got to be the most boring experience in the game. The visuals are just plain dull, and yes, I know it's Choco Mountain, but did they really need to make pretty much everything a shade of brown? Aside from the visuals, the actual races tend to be quite dull, as the layout doesn't lend itself to combat or straight racing particularly well. The most exciting part of the course is the falling boulders, but rarely do they cause any issues and so are instead left as something to break up the monotony of sliding around the brown stuff. Frappe Snowland has one of the funnest music tracks in the game, but when it comes to action it's more frustrating than anything, especially in the 150cc cups. The tight turns don't allow just enough room for sliding, and the mini snowmen spattered across the course are just primed to take you out. The final turn in the game can be quite dramatic with item boxes so close to the finish line, but when it's all said and done, you'll not be wanting to return to this one anytime soon. Rainbow Road is one of the ever-presents of the Mario Kart series, and yes, I know the visuals and music are all unique here, but the course itself is designed to be a grand finale of the game, and yet for me it just lets the game fizzle out into what feels like a never-ending experience. The course is far too long, and instead of being action-packed and exciting climax, you instead often spend the whole race in first place, only dodging chomps who are running amok and trying to see if there's any loose shells bouncing off, which is very difficult given the seizure-inducing visuals. For me, this is one course that I always dread. Sherbet Land ends up quite low down on my list, and I know many people would rate this one much higher. You may think I have a thing against Christmas because like Frappe Snowland, this wintry wonderland is more of a Christmas nightmare in my opinion. The penguins are dotted around the course and serve as a distraction from the slightly short and dull track design. At least in Super Mario 64 you could pick up the penguins and throw them off the edge of the cliff, but here you're only able to dodge them, and I think you should probably dodge this track too. Yoshi's Valley is perhaps the single best example of a love it or hate it track, but being this far down on my list is clearly one which I don't enjoy. The multiple routes through the canyon pretty much kills any combat aside from the final stretch to the finish line. The giant egg can often kill a perfect race at the worst possible time, and those little fuzzy things are just positioned to frustrate you. If you know the optimal route through the course, then it also takes away any multiplayer fun. Luigi Raceway is a fun first experience in the game and one which we've all played over and over and over again, and whilst I agree it serves as a simple and easy welcome into the game, it doesn't really offer too much for an experienced player. The redeeming quality of the track is the fact it's a great place to practice your power sliding skills, as it has wide turns and sweeping corners, but it does lack any real challenge for the more experienced player. Calamari Desert seems to be another fan favourite that I just don't get. For me the course is slightly too long with little excitement in between the sections where you must dodge the train. In single player the multiple carriages of the train can cause absolute carnage, and the build up of players waiting to pass it can be hilarious, but in multiplayer the carriage number is reduced with each additional player, and so by the time you play this in 4-player mode, you've only got to dodge the front carriage, which pretty much kills off any of the difficulty. The music is also very chill, but after 3 laps, I always love it when this race is over and done with. Banshee Boardwalk is a great example of track design being done right. The course length is just right, there's challenging sections where you must dodge bats, and areas which are easy to fall off the edge, which slightly ups the challenge here. Some nice straights give you ample time for using items, and the visuals are perfect for the atmosphere the course is going for. The music though lets this one down, as I doubt you'll ever meet anyone who could hum this tune to you. In a visual department it's great, but in an audio department this track is a bit of a non-event. Wario Raceway is another fan favourite that I just don't seem to like the same way that many others do. The visuals, track design and music are all fair enough, but I find the item placement to be a detriment to the ability to get perfect runs on this track. The first few turns are tight, so experienced players can slide around them perfectly, but it's the final pipe section that often leads to carnage, as weapons are set off left, right and centre. It's a track that seems to favour luck more so than skill, which can be super frustrating when you think that you've mastered it. Royal Raceway is another great example of good track design. You have unique elements like the super tall jump, and let's be honest, we've all loved smashing an opponent right before they go off the edge, only to see them fall to the ground below, which seems to leave them free falling for an eternity. As one of the longer courses, you also don't feel at the mercy of luck as some of these shorter tracks, and there always seems to be just enough time to pull back the win if you're blasted by an enemy. The music also needs a special mention here, as it's one of the stronger pieces in the game, and the faster pace of it really gets you pumped up each and every time. As we enter what I consider to be the elite tier courses, Bowser's Castle is quite simply the badass course that it really needed to be. You can actually imagine Bowser chilling in a place like this, with womps ready to smash you all over the place, fire pits just waiting to engulf you, and a power slide friendly spiral road to the top of the tower to do it all over again. I must admit it can be one of the more infuriating tracks on the higher difficulty levels, but it's one of the few tracks that feels different each time you play it. Shout out goes to the first corner of the track where a giant Bowser statue literally tries to murder you with fire breath, which instantly sets a tone for this being one of the most violent courses in the game. Koopa Troopa Beach this high up on the list will shock pretty much everybody, but please just hear me out on this one. This is definitely a case of pure nostalgia, but whenever I would play with my brother, my sister and my dad, we would often just play the Mushroom Cup, as it was easy for everybody to memorise, so it made for more compelling races. The amount of times we would have arguments as someone would be lucky enough to get the mushroom just in time to use the ramp to cut through the tunnel and take the lead was staggering, and the music and visuals are just all super happy and take me back to simpler times. Sure, you could argue that the small branched track section right at the start is absolutely pointless, and aside from the crabs it's a pretty dull affair, and yet for me nothing feels more nostalgic about Mario Kart 64 than playing Koopa Troopa Beach. Moo Moo Farm is pure filth, and anyone who doesn't think this is one of the game's best courses really needs to have a word with themselves. The course has a perfect mix of risk and reward, as you can power slide around the corners tightly to save time, but at the risk of being mashed by the moles. The whole course has item boxes positioned in just the right spots to allow utter mayhem, and the final concrete pillars near the finish line are always guaranteed to clip some poor sod, which will then allow everybody to overtake them. The music is super, and the whole look of the course is just wonderfully crazy. Into the top 3 now, and Wario Stadium is another course on this list which you'll no doubt be groaning at me for putting so highly. And yes, I know I criticise Rainbow Road for being too damn long, but Wario Stadium is so over the top and plain mental that it deserves to be in the top 3 in my opinion. I think this course has the game's best music track, it legit looks like a dirt bike or a monster truck stadium, and there's a perfect balance between racing and combat, as it doesn't feel crammed with item boxes. And of course, let's not forget hitting an opponent at just the right time to send them crashing down the jump and having to basically have them go back to the last place. I haven't even explained that part all that well, but I guarantee to everybody watching you'll know exactly which part of the course I mean, which shows just how iconic that moment is. DK Jungle Parkway goes into second place for me for the simple fact it has a bit of everything I like in the game. It has awesome visuals and is one of the more unique to look at. The music fits the atmosphere of the track, and there's some great sections for both racing and combat. The huge launch jump across the river is a great moment to battle your opponents, and the tight turns through the jungle help you get up speed, and the rope bridge is the perfect time to drop bananas if you're in first place, because it pretty much guarantees that you will hit all of your enemies. It's not the most beginner friendly of courses, but if you get a group of mates together who know the course well, then this one's guaranteed to be a hit. And in first place, in perhaps the least surprising number 1 spot ever, comes Toad's Turnpike. I mean, is there anyone who wouldn't put this in first place? It's not only by far the best course in Mario Kart 64, but I'd have it up there as one of the best Mario Kart tracks ever made. The course is fairly narrow, which helps make it very combat centric. The other vehicles like cars and trucks give you constant challenges as you try to overtake or undercut them, and the length of the course is spot on. The item boxes along the chicanes mean that you can focus on straight racing if you wish to, but if you're more inclined to fight your way to the top, then you can play the course however you want to. It also adds a sense of tactical gameplay, as if you get shells you need to think carefully about when you're going to use your items and when to fire them, as the course is littered with obstacles which will brush them to the side. The music is also catchy and always reminds me of Kraftwerk's Autobahn for some strange reason. Shout out to any synth fans here. Finally, I mentioned that Koopa Troopa Beach was high on my list for nostalgia, but Toad's Turnpike is right up here for the same reason. So many memories with this course playing it with my family that I wouldn't even know where to begin with the stories. And so there you have it, that's all 16 courses ranked, and so it's over to you. I'll list all of the tracks in the description box to make life easier for you, so that you can copy and paste it and then number them if you're joining in with putting your list in the comment section. I had a lot of fun making this video, and so I'm sure I'll need to do one for Diddy Kong Racing at some point, which you'll probably know is my, well, let's be honest, pretty much one of my all-time favourite games. I'd also love to know who your favourite Mario Kart 64 character is and why. I was always a Toad fan as a kid, but as I grew older, I usually prefer playing as Wario now. Sound off in the comment section down below, and until next time.